Lawmakers, both Republican and Democratic lawmakers, have been worried about Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's two-day visit to the White House, and maybe President Donald Trump should have heeded to their advice. Here's why. Because this meeting comes just over a month after Turkey launched a military offensive into Syria with the intent of clearing the area of US-backed Kurdish fighters, whom Erdogan sees as a threat. It was just a while ago that Donald Trump and Turkey's President Erdogan's meeting just got over. While tensions escalate on the grounds of Syria, Trump discussed the US's relationship with the Kurds. For years, US has allied with the Syrian Kurdish forces in Syria, who did most of the ground fighting against ISIS. But now Trump's decision to withdraw from northeastern Syria last month effectively abandoned the Kurds to Turkish forces and their proxies. But during a joint press conference, Trump said something very contradictory, that Recep Tayyip Erdogan has a quote-unquote great relationship with the Kurds. This is an astounding claim, primarily because Erdogan considered the Kurdish presence across the border as an existential threat. Now, Ankara sees some of the Syrian Kurds as an insurgent group in that's waged a decades-long war against the Turkish state. Now, Trump has also claimed that Turkey's purchase of the Russian S-400 air defense systems created serious challenges, but he hopes that Washington and Ankara will resolve these issues. Now, remember, this comes after NATO member Turkey angered the US by buying Russia's S-400 system. The US says the missile system poses a threat to NATO and US aircraft.
Today we're going to have a discussion.
And just after Ankara's purchase, the Trump administration responded by kicking Turkey out of the program to help build the F-35 fighter jet. Trump has also introduced a two-way trade agreement with Turkey to increase trade as much as $1 billion. Let's listen into what Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan had to say.
Disappointed in the statement made by France.
Reporters asked Trump about the first day of public hearing of the impeachment inquiry, to which Trump laughed and called the inquiry a joke. He also said he watched it only for a minute. For more details, let's quickly go across to our correspondent William Denslow, who's joining me live at the moment from New York. And he's going to talk about this meeting with between Donald Trump and Erdogan. A very warm welcome to you, William. Now, William, give us a sense of the Trump-Erdogan meeting, which we believe also was accompanied by a few unsettling moments during the press conference. Not to forget that this meeting is happening on a very crucial day for Donald Trump, because this meeting happened on the day, you know, the impeachment testimonies have already begun.
Well, that's absolutely right. Of course, it's really seen here in the United States that on a normal day, if you want to look at it that way, this meeting between Recep Tayyip Erdogan and President Trump would have very much been the main news agenda. But of course, because of this first public day, this first day of public hearings when it comes to the impeachment inquiry, this meeting was almost seen as secondary in terms of the US news agenda. But of course, the significance of this meeting between the two world leaders should not be underplayed for reasons that you so rightly explained, considering the fact that Turkey's military offensive into Syria not only was heavily criticised by European allies, by Democrats in the United States, but also members of President Trump's own Republican Party. But President Trump came out in strong support of Turkey, stating that they are strong NATO contributors, strong allies for the United States, and they've done a terrific job in northern Syria in adhering to a ceasefire at the moment, also supporting their work against what the US said was huge efforts against terrorist groups such as the so-called Islamic State. So a very strong message of support from US President Donald Trump, claiming that he and the Turkish president enjoyed a very strong, not only personal, but also business relationship.
Right. All right, William, it's interesting that you mentioned about Trump's stance on the Kurds. His claims of having a great relationship with the Kurds, of course, has been one of the most phenomenal and classic contradictions also that he's known for. Was this a failed diplomatic attempt on Trump's part to strike a balance between the lawmakers who have condemned and blamed his withdrawal from Syria for the plight of the Kurds and an Erdogan who has always considered the Syrian Kurds as terrorists?
Well, this is certainly seen by many analysts as a coup for the Turkish president, and Donald Trump was quizzed on this issue of the Kurds. Donald Trump saying that he still enjoyed a strong relationship with Kurdish fighters. He praised their efforts in fighting groups like the so-called Islamic State. He also said that Mr. Erdogan enjoyed a strong relationship with some Kurdish factions as well. Mr. Erdogan was quizzed on this as well, saying that there was a huge difference between what he described as some Kurds and some terrorist faction, of course, like the PKK and YPG forces from the Kurds. So a very strong message coming from both those world leaders. But of course, there will remain plenty of critics that will still see what both Turkey and the United States have done in northern Syria is incredibly damaging, not only there, but also to the wider region.
All right, William, before his departure, Tayyip Erdogan stated that he wants a new era with US when it comes to the issue of security. Has the meeting helped ease the strain caused by Turkey's purchase of the Russian S-400?
Well, the message from President Trump is that conversations are very much ongoing. Of course, this purchase has not only faced stern criticism from other NATO allies, but from US lawmakers as well, and from the Trump administration as well. Of course, let's not forget that recently the Trump administration been talking about sanctions on Ankara, but the message from Trump was very friendly indeed. While they did say they were going to continue to talk about things like the S-400, President Trump praised Turkey for being a huge military spender when it comes to purchasing US military equipment, for spending plenty on defence, stating that Turkey was doing more than many other NATO allies. So while this is certainly seen as a work in progress, the message, at least publicly, from Donald Trump is that he's very pleased with the work that Turkey is doing and the huge contributions that the US sees Turkey is having, and they believe that their relationship when it comes to military equipment can certainly continue in the future.
Right, all right. So you'd clearly like to see this meeting as a step in the right direction. Before I let you go, William, it's important to talk about how the Congress and the White House have been at odds about this meeting, because while the White House is seeking to manage friction with a NATO ally, US Congress is actually preparing possible economic sanctions for Turkey as well.
Absolutely. Of course, this is something that they're taking very seriously indeed. And this isn't something that we've just seen from Democrats on the other side of the aisle, but plenty of very prominent Republicans, including some huge supporters of Donald Trump, namely the likes of Lindsey Graham, have come out in strong criticism of Turkey's moves. But the message from the White House is that they're trying to ease some of these tensions. They've come out and saying that this is something that will continue to be discussed. President Trump hasn't ruled out the sale of things like the F-35s in the future. So this is certainly seen as an opportunity for the White House to try and ease some of these tensions and see it as a work in progress. Of course, Donald Trump in the past has very much blamed the previous US administration, Barack Obama, for why Turkey perhaps turned to the Russians and not the US for the purchase of these S-400 air defence systems. But again, there will be plenty of critics on both sides of the political aisle that believe that Turkey should be ostracised and not praised for their decisions.
All right, that's a fair way to put it, that there will be critics on both sides of the aisle. Let's see how this meeting actually pans out. Thank you so much, William, for joining us here on this live broadcast and bringing us all those details live from New York.